Coin drop. Screen flash. The high score. Boss laugh.
Thumb sore, same fight. Lost track of the time all night. Snacks gone, eyes red. Still shouting one more instead. Distracted gamers, press start. Button mashing from the heart. Round one, game on. We get hit, go harder. Distracted gamers, press start.
It's the podcast once again. For a second there, I was going to run this thing solo until Jason stumbled in
I made it.
at the last second. I don't know. It probably would have been terrible. I could scream at the internet for an hour or two.
Right. Yeah.
I think the problem is I would run through the news far too quickly. It's like, well, I had my say. Bye.
Yeah.
Congratulations, it's a podcast.
Yeah. I think that without somebody to kind of get a reaction off of, you would just say, well, these are my thoughts. And then there's nowhere to go but the next story.
Yeah, just move on.
Yep.
It would test my skills of elaboration to stretch time out. At the very least. It's a podcast. Ross isn't here because he's got something going on unless he jumps in at the last minute.
Bullshit.
And who knows about Silver?
Right.
No
You
one
never know
knows what
about
she's up
the
to.
kaiju monster.
Well, homework and stuff.
Yeah. That should be done like coming up. I think first part of next week. It's really weird. So when you and I were in school and they had finals week, actually they had no test week first, and that was Monday through Friday, and then finals week was Monday through Friday, and now it's like no test week started last week on Thursday and went to Wednesday this week, and then finals week started on Thursday and is going to. It's like, what are you guys doing? Start on Monday, end on Friday. There you go. Done. It's not that hard.
I was mostly occupied with essays. It was very infrequent unless it was like the general ed stuff that I had to worry about massive tests.
The thing is that it's kind of weird the way that those are done. It's like when you go in and you're doing your generals and stuff, yeah, tests out the wazoo, and you're doing those like the first 2 years, and then you get into your major classes, and at that point you're like doing projects or essays or something like that. I had one English class though where the teacher basically said if you did well enough on this one part, you didn't have to turn in the final report. And so it was just like he was testing us specifically on our writing, and we had turned in enough writing samples at that point that he could say where we needed help, and if we were far enough along in the class, and it's just like, I don't need to help you guys anymore. You can just move on, and I'll focus on these people that definitely need my help. So that was kind of nice. But
Silver drops in to complain. I had classes until Wednesday this week, and I had a final today, so yay. You deserve it. It's all your fault. Regardless, we do have stuff to talk about. A few things really quickly, as an aside. We had WrestleMania this last week. Super exciting. I didn't watch it because I didn't want to spend the whatever amount of money to be able to access one show on ESPN. Right. You do deserve it, Silver.
I've never been a huge wrestling fan. Back in the 80s when I grew up, Hulk Hogan was big. And do they really have that kind of personality there?
Yeah.
in WrestleMania still?
I mean, what it was Hulk Hogan. See, this is the thing where there's sort of a back and forth of like there's always some new guy because you had
Right.
uh, the original era with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and then you
Uh-huh,
slip
uh-huh.
in Andre the Giant in there, and then as the age goes on, you're adding HBK and Bret Hart, and kind of Diesel, but then Diesel and Razor leaves to start to go into WCW. And then big names as you move into the Attitude Era. You're talking Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, who are big, devastating names who were huge draws of money, as well as guys like Goldberg and a lot of just under them tier sort of fellas. And I mean, more modern ages, we've had John Cena, who just retired, who is just a huge name in wrestling.
Yeah, that's true.
Roman Reigns has been the big guy, as well as Cody Rhodes. CM Punk is also up there because he's kind of returned in his wrestling again. I mean, the names still exist. There are still huge names in wrestling. And wrestling has
Mhm.
been more pop culture-y than it's ever been. More engagement on the internet and that sort of thing. But the weird part about WrestleMania, and I apologize if you don't care about wrestling, but this should be at least somewhat applicable if you are interested in pop culture and what's happening in the culture. But wrestling is a huge, huge thing. It brings in huge amounts of money, billions of dollars. And they have the one big event. I mean, they have a pay-per-view once a month, but they have the one big event once a year called WrestleMania, which has always been a huge show, and everybody wants to be on that show if you're a wrestler. And the WrestleMania is so big that other wrestling shows, small to medium sized to AEW, do events on that same weekend because everybody shows up. Because WrestleMania goes the Saturday, Sunday, and they show up just so that they could have events around WrestleMania so people have other stuff to go to, and they earn a lot of money even though they're not remotely associated with it.
They're not as big.
That's how big the event is. It draws in smaller shows that get big money for having events during WrestleMania weekend. It's just a massive, it's like a Super Bowl sort of event. Huge money, huge attendance. And attendance has always been really high with wrestling events like that. But the funny thing building up to this WrestleMania, which was in Las Vegas, is there was word ahead of time that they had less ticket sales than they normally do.
Really? Huh.
And so there was sort of a ploy to like, well, John Cena's going to host the event now, even though he's retired. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll bring more people. Oh, and maybe we'll lower some ticket prices. The ticket prices, by all accounts, were absurdly priced. Absurdly priced. With the high end upwards of $20,000.
Holy cow!
Thousands of dollars for cheap seats.
That's ridiculous.
And the funny thing is classically when they would have big WrestleMania events like this, is people would buy tickets, but then they don't want it to look like they're empty seats. So that if people are just lingering outside, they would just let them in for free just before the event.
Uh-huh.
So if you get in for free just to fill in seats, you don't tend to get good seats.
Right, yeah.
And well, WrestleMania was ridiculous. The year before, I think they drew something like 60,000 for the stadium. This time it was like 40.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of it had to do with price. I don't know if the event was not as exciting. Like, I've heard mixed opinions on the actual wrestling. But the biggest problem, the biggest drama, which should be a tell for how multimedia corporations move forward in the future, so take note even if you don't care about wrestling, of the actual wrestling of the first 4 hours. I know specifically this is how the numbers played out. I think it was exactly the same for the Sunday show, but the 4 hours on Saturday, they had about of actual wrestling in ring, bell to bell, probably something like an hour and a half of the 4 hours Um, of that 4 hours, about 1 full hour was ads.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was really, really bad. I mean,
Yeah,
people were so
that's
belligerent and angry at what they were being exposed to. The joke was like in between pins, an ad would show up, sort of thing. There were advertisements everywhere, and they were trying to bilk as much money as they could. And you couldn't watch it without paying ESPN to be able to access this thing. And any
yikes.
complaints has to be pointed at Tap Out, which is the giant company working with ESPN, who also owns UFC. It was a
Okay.
crap show. Like it was an abysmal, abysmal failure. Absurdly punched with ads. Apparently, the prices of the food were outrageous. People were showing pictures of like pizza they bought for $40.
$40.
It was out of control. And they, I
Why would
mean,
you buy that? Why
it's
wouldn't you
like
just go,
Disneyland. You're
never mind?
imprisoned and you can't get anything besides in Disneyland.
Wow.
Like you're just stuck at the stadium. There's no way to get anything else but what's available in the stadium. And it was
I mean, I get that they
crap
don't
show.
allow outside food or whatever, but at the same time, if I'm going there and they're going to be charging me $40 for a slice of pizza, I'm going to say, no, I'm good.
Yeah. And if this is any indication as to what live events are going to look forward to in the future, then woe the future of WrestleMania and wrestling in general.
Yeah, I mean, it very much seems to me that they, with the pricing on the tickets, um, they're pricing out their demographic. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Wrestling
Like
fans are
wrestling to me,
general audience, middle class, lower class
yeah.
people. Like they're not.
I mean, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to attract the billionaire crowd here?
Well, if they are, there aren't that many. Well, and it was really stupid too. They just flooded it with like celebrity stuff, which was really stupid. Like Logan Paul and Lynn Miranda did the opening for WrestleMania, and it's like, ew,
What?
just
That
terrible.
sounds like, definitely sounds like wrestling's demographic as well.
I was like, no, when I want to go watch, really good wrestling, I'm expecting Jelly Roll, the singer.
Yeah.
That's what I look forward to. Overpriced tickets, overpriced food, an hour worth of advertisements, and also celebrities I don't really care about or even actively dislike when it comes to Logan Paul. Chance says,
Yeah.
what's up, degenerates and silver. We're talking about wrestling, Chance, and how bad it's become. It's funny. I still love wrestling. Like I watch podcasts talking about it, but all of the stuff I like talking about and listening to are all previous era stuff. Like every time I try and get into the current era, I'm just like, ugh, I don't care.
No,
Or
I mean,
try and watch Raw or something.
there- I guess my question earlier about, the personality thing and if there were wrestlers of that kind of caliber in the current um, generation or whatever you're calling it. I forget what the word you just used. Era. Um, I don't know. Hulk Hogan was practically everywhere. Andre the Giant. I mean, yeah, it was entertainment to appeal to the masses. It wasn't really. They knew that they weren't really there to appeal to the highbrow snobby crowd or whatever. Um, but at the same time, they were practically everywhere. It didn't matter that they were wrestlers first and foremost, but I mean, Andre the Giant was in Princess Bride. We had several movies with Hulk Hogan in them, um, and I just don't see that kind of
Yes, you do. You're just not paying
branching out.
attention. Did you forget we had a wrestler in a bunch of the major Marvel movies.
Yes.
John Cena is everywhere. Everybody knows who John Cena is. He has penetrated
Dave
general
Bautista.
pop culture.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, Dave Bautista. John Cena's been in a lot of movies. He was in the Barbie movie.
He was actually in 2 Scooby-Doo movies, now that I think about it.
Well, that's small by comparison. He had his own television show. He was in the Suicide Squad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Wrestling still has penetrated normal general pop culture. I mean, it's still everywhere. Dave Bautista was in Blade Runner.
He was? Oh, no. I didn't know he was in that one.
Yeah, he was in the newer Blade Runner.
Huh. I wonder if some of it is the fact that that maybe back when I'm remembering this kind of stuff, it was almost like they were wrestlers first and then they were branching out. And this seems like they were wrestlers, now they've retired and they've moved on to other projects. I don't know.
John Cena barely retired. He'd been doing movies while still doing wrestling.
Yeah, but like The Rock really hadn't.
I mean, yeah, The Rock is a massive, massive personality. The problem is they do I go away to do a movie and then I come back. And then I go away to do a movie and I come back. That's usually how it works with wrestling. But The Rock is huge.
That's true.
I mean, I've seen movies with Stone Cold in them, and you know.
What movies has he been in?
There was this one where a bunch of inmates were stranded on an island and they had to fight their way out. The third Blade Runner had Triple H in it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're everywhere, Jason.
Like I said, I guess I just don't notice it as much as I did back when it was,
I think Edge was in a popular USA show where he was like part of a detective team or whatever. That show ran for quite a few years because he had an injury and couldn't wrestle. I'm going to address Chance's nonsense. The fact that everyone knows wrestling is fake and still watches anyway boggles the mind. People have been known wrestling is so-called fake for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Apparently John Cena penetrated Amy Schumer. Well, there's no counting for taste. Chance, the reason why wrestling is fun is because it's stupid. At least for me. You have to think of wrestling in terms of...
It's a male soap opera.
Well, there's soap opera, but it's also like... think of it like watching a play and you'll have a fight scene in a play. If you could book the most dramatic fight scene in a movie where the hero wins and that there's personal animus involved and maybe there's a storyline involved, and then just recreate that fight scene in real life. I mean, when people talk about, wrestling is fake, it's like, well, so is, the latest Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, those fights are also fake. Well, it's like, yeah, but in wrestling, you actually injure yourself a lot more because they're doing it live and whatnot. Like wrestling's weird. It's a weird thing. It's hard to describe to people outside of it, but it's watching a play acted fight, and it's fun. It's stupid fun. When I talk about the wrestling I like, it's stupid and shenanigans and the silliness. It's like Attitude Era stupidness, where it's like you have stupid characters doing stupid stuff, and it's just stupid fun.
It's also a little bit ingenuous to call it fake, because they're really doing a lot of physical activity. Yes, they may not be throwing an actual punch that
a lot of the time they do actually hit each other, but yes.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're still lifting each other up. They're still doing these body slams. They're still slamming into each other.
Well,
That's not fake.
I heard...
yeah, it's choreographed. Yeah, they know kind of what they're doing, but...
I can't remember what his name is, but there was a guy who did wrestling and also MMA, and he used to say that wrestling was harder in your body, which I believe. they get ridiculous injuries doing that. Like, look at an older wrestler compared to an MMA guy that retired. The wrestler's body's way more messed up. So it's just when it's like, oh, wrestling's fake, and it's like, I know, like, did you believe Terminator when you watched it? Like, I don't know.
Yes, they barely managed to hold off the robot apocalypse.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody, but it's actually very mainstream. Chance says, although the
Yeah,
first time I ever saw Stacy Keebler, I attended a live event, and she came out in little shorty shorts and bent over in front of me. Now that was enjoyable. Well, because you're a pervert, Chance. It's because you're a dirty old man. That being said, WrestleMania was a stupid event. And if this is the direction wrestling's going, then good luck, everybody. Like, there's only so
yeah,
much you can
seriously.
milk. I remember talking to Ross about this earlier this week, and he's like, why would they do this? It's like the same reason that they do this to the Marvel fans. It's like they presuppose that nerds will just eat it because they're obsessed with it, and they'll just take it. So they could just screw with the stuff you love, or charge you too much, or ruin the stories, because they're like, well, they're nerds, they'll watch it anyway. And it's like wrestling. They'll pay money to watch an hour of ads of a 4-hour show. And
Yeah.
they'll just live with it because nerds have to watch wrestling. That's wrestling. It's like, no, you can lose your audience. You can alienate them and they'll step away. As we've seen with current crop of movies, people are disengaging from Star Wars, disengaging from Doctor Who. The fact that we had Doctor Who for like a season or two with the latest guy and then they cancel should tell you how bad people are receiving the current crop of how they're approaching things. Star Trek and Star Trek Academy. And so when you look at WrestleMania, and it's like, so you just take advantage of your fan base. You just take advantage of them. You charge them too much. Tickets are too high. Make them sit and pay to watch ads. This is absurd. So yeah, wrestling's a crap show. That being said, we do need to engage with the story at hand. The story that basically has been preoccupying everybody the entire week. As I was slowly trying to open this up because I didn't get it prepared ahead of time. So, a little game came out called Pragmata, made by Capcom, the Japanese company. Pragmata, if you're not aware, is this it went through a bunch of iterations. Apparently, they moved the date like 3 times. It's been in development for years and years. I remember years ago seeing advertisements for Pragmata and them trying to put this thing out. But here we go. We get Pragmata, and it's a game where you're like a little soldier man running around a base, and you run into a little girl. And you talk to the little girl, and you find out that the little girl is basically an android, sort of. It's complicated. I don't want to get into spoilers. And the character develops a relationship with the little girl, and they work together to make it through all of the people trying to kill them and out of the facility. And apparently the ending's all dramatic and stuff. Well, this game received a huge amount of response, confusingly. I don't know why everybody seemed necessary to weigh in on the existence of a game like Pragmata. And you might go, oh, well, it's not that big a deal. Well, I mean, Pragmata sold very well. Apparently 1 million copies sold in the first 2 days, which is extremely well.
Wow. That is good, yeah.
For a modern game, a lot of the time they eke out what, like Yota, I think, eked out about 3. I think that was the last number I saw, but I could be wrong.
So I was just looking up kind of the synopsis for Pragmata, and it doesn't seem to me to be in any way controversial.
People will find a way, Jason.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm wondering if the controversy isn't, a huge overreaction and hugely manufactured.
Well,
it just seems to. to me that if you're sitting there going, okay, what can I be outraged about for this? And I start thinking, well,
Well, we could
I
get
guess
into
there's
the
only two
response
people that you can.
to the controversy after we get over what the controversy is.
Okay.
So we have an article from The Gamer. Gaming cannot allow Pragmata's Diana fan club to flourish. Oh.
So apparently,
Why is that, Stacy
people like
Henley?
her, they,
Well, we'll get into it. She says, I don't really mind people finding video games characters attractive. If I did mind, it would be hypocritical. Do people get weird about it and take it too far sometimes? Absolutely. But then that's the same for pop stars, actors, cartoon characters, and just real life people that we find attractive. You could argue that weird attitudes towards characters are more frequent in video games. That might be that you have a greater interest in video games, I assume, unless you stumbled here from the pop star, and therefore see more of it. You could also argue it tends to be a bigger deal in video games where the culture war is incessant, where the fictional hyper-designed nature of character models tend to be seen as a win or loss for each side of this entirely imagined divide. But it only matters as much as you care about. I, a woke video game journalist, humbly declare that Eve from Stellar Blade is hot. This is commonly agreed upon, yet often fought over. I'm not sure why. The issue becomes when this is the primary reason for playing, which quickly becomes a toxic tar pit, wherein you start to convince yourself
that's it.
that this is the only reason the game should exist. This, I suppose, is why we fight over Stellar Blade, blah, blah, blah. Let's skip a little bit. It's all a bit silly when it's framed like that, but it's become more serious when these sorts of attitudes pervade popular gaming discourse. These conversations, often by design, make the community a less welcoming place for those who don't think the soul, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, in the run-up to its release, Reddit banned a Pragmata subreddit because of its content, even with gaming communities being infamously toxic. This is a rare occurrence. It was shut down, which refers to sexually explicit content of minors. Pragmata's star is a childlike android Diana who was focus of this explicit content. This is not an isolated case either. One of the moderators of the main Pragmata mod stepped down because they were sick of the P-do sheet while the community at large formed the Pragmata Safe for Work. So, one side, as this initially came out, started to view Pragmata as well, I'm going to give you some general stuff and then we'll get more reactions to this.
Okay.
Apparently, the controversy right out the gate was a few different things. Firstly, that people thought that it was bad because it normalized dadcore, as they called it, or
so having a
traditional value dudes being protective of cute little girls was seen as wrong.
yeah, okay.
And then on the other hand, left-wing individuals also accused it of sexualizing the little girl, which is a you problem, I would have to say. Because they don't like that because everything revolves around this little girl, that it somehow it sexualizes her in some way.
Okay.
No. Degenerates do exist on the internet, but no. And so let's move to Hassan, which I don't have it.
In any case, what is this?
I don't have it where you can listen to it, Jason, but you can open it up. The Twitter one. And I'm going to play it, and I'll tell you when I pause. So I'm going to start now.
In any case, what is this? Capcom's Pragmata. Wait, did it come out already? Pragmata, it's making thousands of people suddenly want to start a family. You play as Hugh, a soldier, stranded on a ruined lunar research station. Your job is protecting the childlike android Diana while fighting rogue AI. It's out already? Is it good? isn't this like Death Stranding? In one emotional moment, she gives him a crayon drawing of the two of them together as a little family. Even streamers who say at the start they didn't want kids end up breaking down happy in tears. So what's really interesting about this is all of these unfuckable losers in the gaming sphere always talk about like starting families and stuff. And I don't understand like why this has become a thing that they care about. Like, if you're a gamer, you should care about things that you actually experience. You should care about.
So the game and people who like the game are full of uneffable, lonely game losers who have never been around with a woman, will never have sex with a woman. So why do you care about this little character? Like, what do you care about having having children, or like writing or for having children? So there seems to be a lot of negativity or attacking people for having it's weird.
Yeah.
A lot of
Super
people's
weird.
reaction to the character has been protective, but the thing is, that's the point of the game. And then people acting like this is weird and abnormal. There are so many games out that this is kind of a trope where you have one character who's protecting another one. I mean, how many escort missions have existed? Let alone The Last of Us, where you're Joel protecting Ellie. Let alone God of War, where you're Kratos protecting your son. This is not abnormal. This is a trope. This is a common thing. And the fact that the story leans into the idea of having a little girl that you take along with you through the missions and the gameplay, and you protect her, and that the game successfully manipulates your emotions in a way where you feel protective of the character, which is why at the end they're probably going to add some sort of like, oh, you know, I need to make sure she lives, or maybe there's a sacrifice, because I've never played it. But why is this so weird for people? And then a lot of left-wing people are responding to this as in, this is gross because I don't like the traditional family whatever stuff. And also it's gross because you're lonely losers who can't get a woman who are playing games. And that's why you're attached to this little girl. So that's also kind of gross. But then gamers are responding positively to the character. Women are as well as men are. They're like, oh, she's cute, I want to protect her, sort of thing, which is not an unnatural feeling for a game that's trying to give you a story and get you to care about. But for some reason, the response is negative, that they don't like that you're feeling something that the game is encouraging you to feel in this way. This is absurd.
Well, not only that, but that's a normal reaction to a kid, just in general. From an adult perspective, it's like, I need to protect this kid. It's not just that. One of the reasons that the trope works is because it works in real life too. We're kind of already wired to do that. And so they're playing on a system that already exists in human beings anyway.
Well, Jason, let's get a response from the right side of the aisle. Mary Morgan, who works for Tim Pool. To read, lots of strange reactions to this game. Let's clear things up. Childless men do not have paternal instincts the way that childless women have maternal instincts. We observe this in even the way little girls play versus little boys. Men first experience paternal instincts once they have their own children, and typically those paternal instincts are only ever felt with their own children and no one else's. Men are not nurturers. Men don't gush over cute kids in public. Men don't have baby fever. If a man wants to possess a child for any reason other than it being a product of his own lineage, he is likely a predator. And you'd be taking the feminist / radical gender abolitionist position to protest any of these points. This should explain why a dad simulator game marketed to mostly childless men gives people the creeps.
Oh my gosh.
Excuse me? Well, first of all, this got community noted. With research saying research shows childless men experience broodiness and desire for fatherhood nearly as often as childless women. And men, including non-parents, exhibit innate caregiving and protective responses to infants. So by her argument, you're going to tell me that people who adopt don't actually care about their kids? They don't give a shit about their children because they're not their
Apparently.
own? That people, that uncles can't care about their nieces and nephews because they're not their own children? Because that's how men work? And this weird trad woman sort of perspective you've got, Mary, that somehow this men don't care about children that aren't their own and they're not nurturers and they don't. Excuse me? What are we talking about? Research suggests the opposite.
Oh my gosh. The fact that both sides have got this wrong, so wrong, surprises me. I thought that at the very least the right would come out and say, no, men can be protective of children. What are you talking about?
No, you're a predator if you like this
Apparently,
game
if
and
I
you're
think-
protective.
Apparently, if I think, hey, you know what? Harm could come to that child, even if it's not mine. That's predatory behavior?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Tim Pool even doubled down on this and defended her, saying that she was, I can't remember what the quote was, but she's basically right on the basics. It's like, no, she's community noted pretty
No,
heavily.
she's completely out of her mind.
And they went after her with how incorrect this is. And it's like, I get you want to view the world through some specific trope, but like implying that men are only masculine dudes who walk around and be masculine and don't care about kids or protecting kids. Like just observe around you. Men protect children and have paternal instincts towards children that aren't theirs. This exists. And implying that somehow feeling that protective paternal instinct implies you are a predator in some respect in any way, somehow, like, what are we doing here? Chance says, I will protect any kid, so I guess I'm a monster. You are a monster, Chance. You horrible predator for having protective instincts for children. The instinct to be protective is inherently male. But somehow it's like, ew, gross. This gives me the creeps. Guys like protecting this girl. Ew, that's kind of gross. What insanity has infected the world nowadays? And especially when, see, the problem with a lot of this nonsense, this gross, degenerate nonsense, is everybody feels they have to have some sort of extreme political hot take on everything, and then they all have to rush to it and try and defend it. And this is just absurd. Where was the outrage with Joel and Ellie protecting Ellie in Last of Us 1? Where was the outrage in any situation? I mean, freaking Resident Evil 4, where you had to protect the little girl for huge parts of the missions. And
everybody hated.
And everybody hated it. But like, it's an inherent instinct to somehow where the left doesn't like that it's traditional dad core, and that they also think it's predatory and gross from incel losers who can't have sex, so they're having proxy children. Like, what, you can't watch a movie and sympathize with a character because that's stupid? Like, it doesn't work on you? Or the right, you're basically a PDF file if you have any protective instincts or like the game or want to protect the character. That somehow you're also gross in the trad wife area.
I'm sorry, but if you come up upon a man who has no protective instincts whatsoever, that's a red flag right there. Because why would he protect you? You're not his kid.
Chance says, feigned outrage is the lifeblood of the American liberal. Apparently, as well as the Tim Pool trad wife sector of the internet as well. I mean, obviously outrage gets clicks, and there is a bunch of people speculating that Mary is trolling everybody. But this sentiment has been defended
No.
and like looked at and by other people in this. Mary says,
It
to those
seems
denying biology here, would you hire a male babysitter? That's not the point. Women are nurturers, men are protective. That doesn't mean that men have no protective instincts or when, believe it or not, when I was in middle school, I was a babysitter to my next door neighbor. And their boys
I was
actually
hired as a
liked me
babysitter.
more than my sister because I played with the boys and we did boy stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
But
The thing is that so I remember my mom several times hiring teenage boys to be our babysitter. She usually got a teenage girl to be our babysitter, and then when I became a teenager, I was hired several times to be a babysitter. Usually, it was to babysit a boy, not to babysit girls or anything like that. It was usually because the um, there was a single boy in the house, and the parents knew that we would get along really well and they would have fewer problems than if it was just a boy and a girl kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't there like teaching him his ABCs or something. We were playing together. So,
this,
I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from the perspective of which one will buckle down and make them do their homework, yeah, maybe not the guy.
well, I think this is just beside the point. People
True.
do have men babysitters, and just
Yeah, they
being
do.
dismissive of, well, you're just denying biological reality. The data shows otherwise. Men do
Right.
feel the need to have children, and in fact, that need to have children and pass on your posterity is almost statistically the same as childless women.
Yeah. Uh, the thing is that I don't buy the whole she's trolling thing. Because if she was trolling, I figured that at some point Tim Pool would have said, yeah, she's just trolling you guys. She doesn't really believe it. He wouldn't have doubled down and said, no, hear her out. It would have definitely been a different reaction. Or she would have said, gosh, you guys, I was just kidding. There would have been some follow up that said, hey, I'm just joking with you. I understand it. No, you guys are totally right. I'm, just messing with you. There would have been something like that rather than what we got.
Well, right, but let's. All right. To read a comment of all of the retarded takes I've seen on this game, this is by far the most retarded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if women, not to get into an abortion debate, but if women were so nurturing, they wouldn't consider something like abortion as an option.
Yeah.
So what do we like? Like, this is so stupid. This is the dumbest, ridiculous take of I'm going to structure my worldview into viewing this game through this specific world lens. Like, I find myself
so
looking at
surprised.
both the extreme left and the extreme right of the situation and going like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I was trying to come up with what on earth could the controversy be here? And the first thing I lit upon was lack of diversity because you've got two characters in this game and the rest appear to be homicidal robots led by an AI. So you've got two people, but then one of them turns out to be a robot anyway. And so it's not like it looks like both of the main characters are white. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, maybe that's the controversy. There's not enough diversity in this game.
No,
And we get this? I didn't even think this was a thing.
No, it's a thing. And the stupid part is this game just it gained a lot of popularity and suddenly it's like, well, it's not that great. We shouldn't be encouraging people to enjoy this game because this is a bad precedent to set because it's kind of gross and creepy that guys like protecting this girl. It's like nobody's been in the real world or aware that men
Seriously.
have protection against, like the amount of cousins I've had sit on my lap And somehow I'm just a predator because
Yeah, apparently.
my nieces and nephews, I'm just a perv now because I like my nieces and nephews or what. It's funny because I'm finding the word, I find it hard to describe how stupid this is.
I know.
We're manufacturing controversy because the game is popular, and so we're finding faults in it based upon. Well, it's like it's almost like every time a movie comes out, and they go, well, you all might like it, but it's not diverse enough, or the characters aren't.
Right.
There's not enough LGBTQ characters, or the characters are too pretty. Wait, like with there was some stupidity
Horizon
from
Zero, whatever.
Devil Wears Prada 2, where the main actress or whatever in it, she was like, well, I wanted more diverse body types. And it's like, well, then you're not a model. Nobody cares to look at you. And it's just looking for controversy and trying to get clicks and attention, which she has because she's got millions of views, which is essentially down the line of Hassan Piker's worldview as he tries to do things and encourage people to get upset, and that gets him clicks and attention. That's why he's one of the biggest streamers out there. But to have a weird take of like, oh, guys like this game and it works because the character's cute, and then you want to protect her. Somehow it's like, ew, gross, you predator, or ew, gross, you incel douche, or ew, gross. You guys are manufacturing nonsense. Yeah. And the fact that you're on a show called Pop Culture Crisis is confounding to me. You lack basic understanding of pop culture in most respects. Should you quit your show? Because you don't understand any of this. And the fact that you're so off the mark with general audience reaction should tell you don't understand pop culture, or at least you don't get why people enjoy it. Unless your argument would be they're all predators, would be your argument? Is this what we're going to get at now?
Yes. Apparently. Apparently, if you don't agree with my worldview, you are... I mean, that's what it boils down to here. It's if you don't agree with my worldview, you're awful. You're an awful human being.
Chant says, meanwhile, truly great games like Jalen, Silent Bob, Chronic, Blunt Punch are out. Oh, Kevin Smith is such a piece of shit. I haven't found any of Kevin Smith movies good except for maybe the first, Clerks is all right. I don't know, that one that one cop comedy, Cop Out or whatever, was okay. Like, Kevin Smith isn't good. He can't write and he can't direct. Or he's got basic understanding of directing. He's a massive piece of shit. Yeah. Well, let's look on to some more of the drama. Well, Tim Pool has some stuff to say. We're not going to get into it. I don't care. Just somebody's enjoying something. You gross. I don't like it.
Yeah.
You must be a gross incel predator or whatever.
The fact that both sides came out against this particular video game.
To be fair, the extremist end of both political spectrums.
Yeah.
The general reception is very positive. People seem to like the game.
Yeah. And that's what gets me here. It's like the audience is like, what? It's a fun game. And since there's really nothing here to get upset about.
Yeah, people
they got
upset.
Find a way. I know. But the mental gymnastics it requires to get upset about this is so stupid. So stupid.
Well, and it's not the first time we've had a game like this. Where you have to protect another character and help them out throughout the game or whatever.
Right.
People have been critical because her legs are kind of bare throughout because her outfit, she kind of has bare legs, but it's explained in the plot that standing on the floor is what recharges her because the facility recharges her walking around. But regardless, it's like, so seeing a little girl in bare feet, you're concerned that people are getting attracted to it. Like that's a gross way to sexualize little children on your part,
Yeah.
not on theirs. I've never seen a little kid running around in bare feet being like, ew, that's kind of hot, you guys. It's like, oh, that's gross. That's really gross.
Yeah.
Why are you thinking that way? Like that, comments like this only come from perverts.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't help that Mary Morgan has like wears I don't want to say little girl, but she presents herself as like young girl hot photo she takes and puts on Instagram, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. Really, Mary? This is your criticism? Really? Well, it's such weird selective outrage.
Yeah.
I mean, you had an element of this in like Bioshock Infinite, running around with what's her name. This isn't a new gameplay.
The first Bioshock, where you could protect the little sisters.
Yeah, I mean it was choosing how you, because it developed like the different sort of endings with it, like whether or not you protected the little sisters as opposed to. But it's like, this isn't new, and how come suddenly this game? Why? Because it's popular. I have to weigh in with a political hot take and then make everybody go like, what? What are we talking about? Like, how come everything? It would be one thing if the game presents itself in that way, but it doesn't. It's really just like the dad simulator is what it is. Right. Where you have a goofy relationship with this girl. She draws you pictures. There's nothing more than that.
That's kind of cool.
Well, right, but the game's purposely trying to get you to care, which probably means it's trying to be manipulative, where at the end it's like, oh, you have to protect her and die or something like that. That would be my guess, that it gives you that sort of element. Because in storytelling, they probably lean hard into it so that it pulls at the heartstrings when you get to the end.
Yeah. That's why it worked in Last of Us.
Yeah, that's why the Last of Us ending worked the way that it did. So you sympathized with not letting her be cut up by the doctor, and you saved her, which is why Last of Us 2 was so stupid, because it denied the intention that Joel had the whole time, which is why it was written by a completely different person. I mean, The Last of Us 2 built itself as I'm going to protect Ellie and lead her through this whole thing, and by the time I get to the end, I realize I can't let her be cut up, even if it's for possibly creating a vaccine, maybe.
Right.
It's not going to save the whole world, because you can't undo all of the monsters that were created, all the cliggers or whatever. So like, you understand from his perspective, because you're like, oh, you developed a relationship with this kid, you can't let them do that. Whereas if you were just coldly to look at it, it's like, well, if they have to cut up her brain to create a vaccine, then that's what they have to do. But that's why you develop that relationship, so that you understand the character's position and why he had to stop them from going into surgery or whatever. That's why it works. Thing is that
if you didn't have that relationship, then the game would end right there. Joel turns her over and walks out, and Ellie's dead.
Well, and she plays like a proxy daughter, because his daughter dies in the beginning of the game.
Right.
But where was the outrage then? Where were people upset then? Oh, that's stupid. You're not supposed to... What, I'm not allowed to... Men and women are so different that I lack the capacity to care about little kids or protect them. That's how different we are.
That's it. We couldn't possibly, in any way, shape, or form, sympathize with and want to protect someone.
Jason, your fatherhood is a lie.
Apparently.
Well,
Well,
they're
no.
your own. Yeah.
Yeah, they're my, yeah.
That's the only place
The
time
only
you'll
ones
care.
that I would ever go out of my way to protect would be my kids.
You
Everybody else, man, you can throw them to the wolves. I don't care.
you see a kid running into traffic, you're like, meh.
Yeah, exactly.
That ain't my kid. Let him thin out the population. Ugh.
That's just Darwin's survival of the fittest in operation right there, man.
This
If you
this
can't stay out of the road,
this drama has dominated the week. People talking about Pragmata, that they like it, and then people having ridiculous takes on it.
I can't imagine a more ridiculous take than the one that we've just gone through.
Yeah.
I don't know. It definitely is what you said, where they looked at this, they couldn't figure out a way to get mad at it, so they made something up. That's the only thing that I can think of here.
Well, there has been
Like,
some people to speculate that because it's a Japanese game and the Japanese have like the what do they call it? It's like the little girl and little girl outfits thing.
maybe.
I
don't
that's
think
why
that
it's
that's what-
pervy.
I definitely don't think that's what this is. The thing is that I have seen a number of anime that have released recently, where this kind of dynamic, buddy daddies is a good one. The two guys are hitmen, and they end up kind of adopting a little girl, and keeping her safe and becoming, dads to her. And there was another one where the demon lord's daughter gets found in the woods by an adventurer, and he adopts her, and becomes kind of her dad. So there's been a number of things. I could see that being kind of a Japanese influence there,
Well,
or a
no,
Japanese thought. But
the whole lolicon culture does exist in Japan.
oh no, you're right, it does. But I don't necessarily think that that is this.
No. No, I don't. I mean, the fact that maid cafes exist in Japan at all, where they walk around like doing cutesy girl voices and stuff. Like, I mean, there is a thing, but that doesn't mean that that's what's being presented here, unless you have video evidence of the character being pervy or wearing way too short a dress or any
Right.
number of things. To jump the conclusion right out the gate, well, it's gross because it's a little girl. How dare you, you pervert? And then the justification is you're either an incel loser who can't have your own family, or you're a male loser predator who's over sexualizing the character. Those are the two options.
Yeah.
Anyway. Good Lord, internet.
You know what would be really funny
Hmm.
is if secretly, like Hassan Piker and whoever that other lady, Hassan Piker is a terrible human being
Mary
to
Morgan.
begin with, but what was that, Mary
Morgan.
Morgan? It would really be funny to me if it came out that they were closet fans of the game.
I mean, maybe. Hold on. Gosh dang it. I was gonna. Oh yeah. I was gonna find. I mean, I don't want to call her on blast, but she has pictures of her in like little cutesy outfits, and it's like, what? So they're not So that's not
apparently-
leading into it.
Yeah. Apparently it's okay when she does it.
Yeah.
These people are such hypocrites.
Here. There's her in a little cutesy outfit on the right.
Yeah.
Dressed kind of in a younger, childish sort of way. Are you also being perverted by implying you're younger and sexualizing that in its own way, Mary?
The answer to that question is yes.
You see what I mean with these pictures on the right here? It's like, I mean, come on. Anyway, apparently it's bad to be a man that's protective. Dadcore is wrong, unless they're your own children, then it's appropriate.
Such a stupid. The thing is that if men throughout history didn't protect children that were not their own,
Well, then who
There would have been
cares?
so
Why would
many
men
more
go to
deaths.
war?
yeah,
There'd be a lot more dead kids out there. I can tell you that.
yeah,
Why would men ever join the fire department or the police force if they didn't want to protect people that aren't their direct family? Let's set this aside and move on. I'm sure Chance has gone to bed. He gets fussy when he stays up too late. News time.
News Dump Online. This is the Distracted Gamers. Connecting now.
All right, news dump. Lots of stuff to go through. First of all, Shuhei Yoshida has been fired from Sony. Former
really.
president, stuck around in other roles. He is among one of the most recognizable figures in Sony,
Yeah.
and was the producer in games like Gran Turismo, Ape Escape, and Legend of Dragoon. Yoshida-san eventually became the head of PlayStation Studios, stepping down to Herman Hulst. However, this transition was rocky. Yoshida-san confirmed during 2026 edition of Australia Games Festival to have been fired from the role because he didn't listen to then CEO Jim Ryan. As reported, Yoshida-san didn't mince words in the matter. He said, "I helped Santa Monica to make God of War, Naughty Dog to make Uncharted and The Last of Us, and Sucker Punch to make the beautiful Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima was one of the last games that I worked on as president of Worldwide Studios. But in 2019, after 11 years leading to the first-party development, I was fired from the role. Jim Ryan wanted to remove me from first-party because I didn't listen to him. He asked me to do some ridiculous things, and I said no. Because I grew up with Jim from PS1 days, you don't want to have one of the friends in sport." Anyway, so there's been some people speculating, what does he mean by was forced to do ridiculous things and he didn't want to? A lot of people have been trying to hope or throw shade that Ghost of Yote was part of the ridiculous things
It wouldn't surprise me.
that he didn't care for. And if that's the case, then ironically, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yoshida was like the man for years and years, but unfortunately, he's moved on. They might regret that in the future.
Sounds like they were, well, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you can see from the outside that it probably was a bad decision on their part, but yeah, you're probably right that they won't notice that it was a bad decision until sometime down the road. They just got rid of the guy who didn't follow what the boss was telling him to do.
Well, the Gina Carano lawsuit with Disney has been settled. And she apparently had a conversation with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, which made everybody think, is she coming back to Star Wars or whatever? I'm glad she kind of settled the drama and she's not holding it bitterness to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But her winning
Yeah.
the lawsuit is definitely a feather in her cap as well.
Yeah.
The fact that she sat down and chatted with him is an interesting sign.
That's. I mean, that is a sign of a decent person.
Yeah, she seems to be. I've never met her or anything. To be kind of
Yeah.
a lovely gal, that she's positive and forgiving. So yeah, good for her.
It's-
That, and we've got the big fight coming up with her. So look forward
Is
to
she
that
still doing MMA?
one. She's coming back to fight Ronda Rousey.
Really?
Yep, they're both Ronda Rousey, who's left for a long time. They're going to
Yeah.
have because they never faced off, because they
Really?
didn't
Okay.
quite meet up during their eras. It's like Gina Carano was just before Rousey, sort of thing.
Huh.
So we'll see where that goes. Asha Sharma says that Xbox is investing to make Series X consoles a first-class experience again. If you haven't noticed, if you own an Xbox, we all got messages that they're lowering the price of Game Pass.
Wow.
Yep. And apparently,
I hadn't been paying attention.
apparently the reasoning for it is that we are no longer going to get Call of Duty day one so that they can lower Game Pass. But I'm going to be honest, Call of Duty kind of sucked recently. So I don't think anyone's going to feel bad if they don't get it day one. Apparently, Call of Duty will be a year delayed release to Game Pass, which is fine because I never play Call of Duty anyway.
Well, the thing is that if you really want to play Call of Duty, you can buy it when it comes out, and your Game Pass is going to be cheaper anyway. So you could potentially have some money to put towards buying Call of Duty, or if you really want to play it but you don't have the money, you can still pay for Game Pass and get it a year later. You're going to be able to play it either way.
Well, I was very skeptical of Asha Sharma right out the gate.
Oh yeah,
A lot of people are
Same here.
very negative, but these seem to be good moves so far. Like, we'll have to see how things go down the line.
Well, I remember when we talked about the announcement of Asha Sharma being named as the new head of Xbox. And we were saying, why are they taking someone from the AI division and moving her over to the Xbox division? That doesn't seem to make sense. And the only thing that we could think was that, I shouldn't say the only thing that we could think, but what it led us to think was that they were definitely going to try to shoehorn more AI into the Xbox. And they still could be doing that.
Well, right.
But-
My reticence hasn't gone away, but these are positive signs.
But yes, these are definitely positive signs. Definitely. I did not expect this out of Xbox. I expected a doubling down of the price and definitely an announcement that we are pushing more AI into Xbox, as opposed to what we've got, which is Xbox seems to have kind of lost the picture here, and we need to kind of right the ship. That's really something that I didn't expect, and am positively surprised about it.
Well, it's going to take a lot of good decisions for years before things even remotely get better.
Right.
I mean, they could be luring us in. It's like, oh, we're going to lower Game Pass. We do this, this, and this, and all of these positive stuff. And also the next terms of service, it required Xbox butt plug with your AI. It's like, all right, never mind, Xbox.
Every time you play it, you get electrocuted. It's our new terms of service.
The Lanterns trailer has been removed from HBO Max, DC, and Warner Brothers channels.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. No explanation as to why. Maybe
No,
they
why?
weren't
You
received
don't need to
super
explain
well.
it.
I mean, they didn't look good. And then we had the comments
No.
from the director of Green is stupid or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, so why do we care? This happens every time. Hey, we've got a brand. I think it's dumb. I'm going to make my own thing. And then everybody hates it because there's a reason why you bought the brand. Anyway.
I really don't understand this. I mean,
Well, because they don't like it in the
why
first
are you
place.
hiring? Huh? Sorry.
They don't like this in the first place. They never did.
Yeah. So I go out and I buy a brand in order to bring in the fans, and to kind of bring in this captured audience, right? So I've got this audience that should come along with it, and instead of hiring a director who maybe liked Green Lantern at least a little bit, they hire somebody to be the director who has no desire to direct a Green Lantern movie and thinks the color green is stupid. Who is making decisions over there? Do they have a Ouija board and they're just like, no. What
Well,
do they think is going to happen?
they think it'll be successful regardless because they have a captured audience and they can do whatever they want to. And we're learning these ramifications in every major brand
Seriously.
across
It's like,
the board.
exactly. It's across the board. They sit there and they go, okay, we're gonna pull in this fan base because we have the right to X. They screw up X, and the fans revolt, predictably revolt, and then they do it again, rather than saying, you know what, we did this once before. There's a lesson to be learned here.
Well, let me play devil's advocate at least a little bit. I don't think they're entirely incompetent. I mean, look at Starfleet Academy.
Okay.
A person who likes Star Trek could be like, well, this is bad Star Trek. This doesn't follow the lore. It's incomprehensible. The storytelling's not the same, blah, blah, blah. However, when they look at Star Trek, they know a few specific things. One, the fans of Star Trek are aging. If you go to any Star Trek convention, you're looking at 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, at best, people in their 30s, at best.
Yeah.
And so if they want the brand to move forward with new audiences, they think that the conclusion is to attract younger audiences. And what they're chasing is the always online, degenerate, very vocal, aggressive, like those audiences, like the activist core audience, which despite the fact dominating popular culture for the last 10, 15 years, are kind of slowly getting out of style. And so they're chasing an audience that isn't big enough to carry your show. And mainly is going to anger anybody that would be interested, because the show becomes about the politics and about the intersectionality and about the LGBTQ and all these sorts of things. An audience that I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to chase a younger demographic, but there's not enough of those activist younger demographic to carry the show. And it mostly just pisses off your older audience. Now, I would argue, instead of basically ruining Star Trek and chasing a demographic that doesn't care about Star Trek anyway, you make good, thoughtful shows, because I think that is cross-generational. But to be fair, I'm speaking from somebody of another generation. I would like to think that people would be interested in better written, more thoughtful, more thought-provoking shows. But then you see stuff like kids don't watch cartoons. Like they don't watch cartoons anymore. It's YouTube videos. You look at the interests of younger generations, and it's like, oh, well, I love Final Fantasy VII. The vast majority of the audience of Final Fantasy VII, of the remake, were in their 30s and 40s. younger generations were not buying the game. So I'm speaking from, these are great games, but they're not actually attracting younger generations. And I think there
Right.
is a degree of fear in a lot of these companies that they don't know how to connect to these younger generations. And when they chase it, they just piss off the original fans.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think it's entirely irrational. Like, it's irrational in the sense of they thought it would work and obviously this was going to fail. But clearly they were thinking in terms of we're trying to use this brand to attract another group. But the failure is thinking that you can change it so drastically that the original fans would stick around in any way.
Now, so kind of on that topic there, where we're talking about them trying to pull in a younger audience, because obviously, if they allow their older audience to die off, they have no audience. They're not getting any money from it anymore, so they do have to bring in younger crowds. Um, um, and you were mentioning that uh, the current generation, there's not enough of them to support um, that particular show. Um, I wonder. Let's say that Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, was actually a good show. Um, do you think that if they had made a good show, that not only would I mean, obviously, if they'd made a good show, the diehard fans would have been there for it, regardless. They would have been jumping on board. You think that maybe the millennials or whatever Gen Z or whoever it is that they're trying to chase to try to bring in, do you think they would have come to, and then they would have been able to perpetuate their fan base into the newer generations?
I would like to think so, but I think evidence is pointing at the fact that they simply aren't even interested in the same types of media anymore.
Hmm.
Because I would like to think, well, if you make a good show, we could get the younger audiences into it. But then you look at stuff they watch and it's not like episodic.
Well, I mean,
it's not longer form. It just isn't.
the thing is that I think I know that there is some of that, because I see what my kids watch, and my kids watch just these ridiculous things on YouTube where they're like doing Pokemon trivia and stuff. Um, but my older kids are actually starting to get into episodic stuff and longer form content. Um, I'm wondering and I wonder if some of that is going to just kind of trickle down to these others eventually. Their tastes are going to deepen. They're going to crave that longer form content. I mean, I still see that there might be a
Well,
place for.
maybe, but they're also being influenced by you
That's true.
and you encouraging them to consume similar content that you enjoy. And they might not have been as infected with perpetually online sort of issues that a lot of younger generations have. Like, I've seen interviews with young kids, like kids, where they'd be like, "Oh, what cartoons do you watch?" And he's like, "Cartoons?" Like, he didn't even know what they were.
Wow.
We are looking at, I mean, when we went through the numbers when it came to what video games are being consumed, they're not single player. They're about 4 or 5 games. Nobody's really buying new games. Like, at best, they're selling 1 or 2 games a year. Like, there is a generational shift of interest and how they view things. And it's funny because a lot of the time it's like, oh, the kids are into their newfangled music. It's like, I think the era of the internet and social media is actually changing how we, like, what our interests are and how our brains work. And I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
we'll understand the consequences for quite some time.
But let's say that Star Trek was good, um, and the Star Trek fans were there for it, right? Do you think that they would have brought along that younger audience,
No,
been like,
and
"Hey, you really
the
need to check this out"?
the first time you asked it was no, and it's still no. I don't think those types of shows are even interesting to younger audiences.
Hmm.
And we like it, but I don't
Right.
think I think they are so devoid of the type of content that we consume that it's almost like talking to aliens with the interest in the type of things that they look at. Social media consumes everything that they do. Shorts, the TikTok age of consuming things in short little spurts. I think Hollywood should be more concerned than they ever have been. And it's not just them damaging their reputation or making bad movies or yada, yada, yada. I think young people don't care about watching movies.
Hmm.
And you might go, well, what are they watching? Yeah, TikTok and YouTube.
Right.
What games are they playing? Fortnite and FIFA and the NBA game. I mean, that's really what the data shows. They're not playing single player games. They're not buying it. And those who are buying these single player games are older.
Right.
So we can hope that maybe it's an age thing, that maybe as they get older, they'll have a desire to consume more things. But they're finding children who know how to use smartphones and tablets and can't write their own name.
That's true.
So what are we
I mean,
looking at? A brain rot of epic proportions where social
Oh,
media has
definitely.
just destroyed their ability. Like, it's funny, you look at the test requirements of like Victorian children, and I don't think most college students could pass it.
You're probably right.
I mean, not to be I'm criticizing younger people, but Jason, for the first time in human history that we've been able to record, Gen Z is dumber than the previous generation. And that
Yes.
never happens. They always get smarter. Gen Z, the average intelligence is lower than the generation before them.
Wow.
Yes. So I don't even think if you make good Star Trek that necessarily it's going to bring in, and I'm not even saying young, which is probably where a lot of our problems are, but I'm talking like 20-year-olds. I don't think they care.
Right.
And I would watch Star Trek when I was in like high school.
Same here, yeah.
So there is a shift now. Hopefully I'm wrong, and then maybe it's an age thing. As they get older, they gain more interest. But it's like, you read a lot. Kids don't read, and you might go, well, my kids read. It's like, yeah, but your kids are different. They were raised in a different kind of household with you, passing on the
That's
desire
true.
to read. You look at the average family. No, they're not reading.
So, I've lived outside of the country, and I mentioned to some people that I read a lot, and they didn't really understand how much I read. And I said that, this isn't just books, that were assigned to me by my teachers at school. This was, I go to the library, I check out books. I go to the bookstore, I buy books. I own right now over 1,000 books. And we were talking to some people, and I asked them point blank. I said, "How many books have you read just for fun?" This wasn't a school assignment. This wasn't um, you know, you had to do this. This was to learn to read. This was, you wanted to read this book. And one of the girls that we were talking to said 7.
Thing is,
And this
I
was
don't
like
even
20
think
years ago.
I don't even think that's abnormal. I think it's abnormal that you read as much as you do.
Yes, probably.
I think most people read some books, and most people read books when they were in like middle school and high school, and then they moved on to adulthood and just didn't read anymore. That's most people, I think. But now we're getting to younger generations, and I don't think they read at all.
Well, it's funny you should say that. There was a girl that I swear she got a scholarship to an Ivy League university. She is functionally illiterate and is suing her school district for
No,
allowing
like,
her to.
I mean, you look at a lot of the college students that come out, and I don't want to be this like, oh, everybody's stupid nowadays, but you look at college students that come out of colleges, and they lack basic knowledge.
Yes, definitely.
Basic knowledge. You run into people at colleges and they ask basic information, and it's like, oh no, they're stupid. Oh no.
Yep.
I mean, Victorian England, children had to know how to read and write Latin. Like there's a gulf between required knowledge. And the funniest thing is you've had more access to knowledge than anybody else. Literally, you can get a Harvard education without having to go to Harvard because they post the lectures online.
Yeah, yeah.
So without being tested or interaction with the teacher, you can just listen to lectures. I have lectures saved. I've watched extensive lectures on things like history and politics and that sort of thing. But that's because I have a desire to learn and I have a need to learn. But you sort of grow into that. You develop it. I think social media, we will not understand the ramifications of social media for quite some time, but I don't think it's positive. And I'm not even just saying this because, well, they don't like smart shows like I like smart shows. And it's like, if they had newer shows that were interesting, sure. But I don't even think they're even interested in that sort of thing anymore. And hopefully this isn't a long-term detrimental effect because we could be looking at a vast gulf of media where at some point there's going to be a tipping point and movies and video games are going to almost entirely be irrelevant because they don't consume those sorts of things. I mean, look at the vast majority of gaming, if you count it as gaming. Gaming is done on mobile. Vast majority. And those could hardly be called a game. Most of the time you have to sit through ads to progress. Most of the time there's like timed stuff. And I looked for good mobile games. They're
really aren't very many.
Very rare and hard to find. Most of the time they're sort of clickbaity, nonsense, stupidness. But these are the most popular games people play is mobile games. Young people play these, and then it's like, well, I want to progress. Well, you got to watch an ad. How do we think this is actually affecting their brains now? If this is what all the interest is. The future is not bright from my position. Not for the culture, not for newer generations. And I don't want this to be my parents were like, well, those degenerates were listening to the rock music or whatever. No, this isn't that. I don't. Their music is whatever it is, sort of thing. I would argue that music has, and it happened during my generation and the one after me and the one after that music has been far too formulaic, especially when it comes to pop music, which is unfortunate because it's been a lot more varied, a lot more interesting sort of thing. It's like that 4-chord nonsense where most pop music falls within 4 chords. But despite this, I mean, I would like to think that people would be interested in good Star Trek, but they're not.
Well, I would like to think that they were interested in good Star Trek as well, but it's kind of hard to definitely say that when we haven't gotten good Star Trek.
Sure, but there's a lot of old Star Trek, and it's not like people aren't going back and watching it.
That's true.
I used to grow up and be like, you'd have those families who'd be like, well, we don't have television, we don't have the internet or whatever. And I'd be like, really? Because there's this great stuff. And nowadays I'm like, it might be better for the kids if they don't have the internet or television until they're like 18 or whatever. At least like developing brains, it
Yeah.
being a problem. I dated a gal that had like restricted screen time for her son. And it's like, I mean, younger
No, I
people
get
have
it.
more addictive brains and are very attracted to and single-minded, and they want to keep viewing it and looking at it and going after it. And it's like, I get it. I mean, but there are better even choices in video games. And I suppose this could open up to a greater discussion of like, if you have kids, maybe encourage certain types of media, because it's not like video games are inherently bad from my perspective, but there are games that are probably more stimulating and probably more interesting and probably better for you. Problem solving or teach certain lessons. They don't have to be like the Mario history game or anything.
Right.
But you know, there are probably games that are better than like a Candy Crush. That's not like
Right.
that. Where it's just flashing lights and the game's literally built to prey upon addictive instincts, much like how slot machines encourage you to act in certain ways to pull the switch. You see my problem?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's good media out there. It's hard to convince kids to read, but it was hard when I was younger to convince kids to read. It's going to be hard for the future, and it's probably hard before me.
Yeah.
But both of my grandpas would just sit and read. My grandpa was a farmer, and it's like, uneducated. It was like, no, he was better educated than I would say most people. Why? Because he sat and he read a lot. He had a subscription to National Geographic, and he read it cover to cover every time it came in. He wanted to learn, but he was just a normal farmer. But that doesn't mean you don't know things. You just don't have credentials. Right. And there should be an encouragement of learning outside of simply the education system. Lifelong learning should be more of an encouraged attribute than simply, well, I got to get my piece of paper, because you get people who go through college who do the bare minimum to get the piece of paper, and then you ask them basic questions of classes they've been through or things related to their degree, and they don't know. It's like, well, then you wasted your money because you learned nothing.
Definitely.
Oh boy. So yeah, anyway, Star Trek is still bad. Where did we leave off? There was an odd thing. So apparently they've been filming stuff at prisons for Superman Man of Tomorrow, and the inmates have been complaining about the filming at the prison.
So
I guess it's been disruptive.
They
were told to remain in their cells way more than under normal circumstances, and had even worse, no access to commissary, and so they've been really pissed off about James Gunn's filming at the prison.
Okay. So they're filming the next Superman.
Yeah.
And apparently they're using okay, gotcha. That I get it. You have so little freedom to begin with in prison, and you're getting your freedom's even more curtailed. Yeah, I get it. I can't say that I care much, because I don't really care about James Gunn's Superman, and you're in prison to be punished.
Well, look at it this way: James Gunn's Superman is so bad that it's inconveniencing prisoners. Let's shift forward. Despite the 3,900 celebrity signature petition to stop the Paramount Warner deal, shareholders have rubber stamped it, and it's going forward. So good job with all of your efforts to stop it. They basically ignored you and did it anyway. Oh, actors. The deal has gone through regardless. Shifting forward. Oh, I don't like this. Studio Canal is developing Escape from New York as well as a Howling reimagining. We don't need another Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Snake from Metal Gear Solid was modeled after Snake Plissken.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I I don't know. The fact that like 10 years ago even I would have said, "Oh, and a remake of Escape from New York, that could be kind of cool." And now it's like, yeah, nah.
No, I don't trust remake anything. They always ruin
No.
it. It's always worse. I love
Yep.
The Burbs. The Burbs show's terrible. It's just bad. Paramount 2 is reportedly trying to sell Starfleet Academy Season 2 to Netflix.
Don't buy it, Netflix. It's a trap.
Yeah.
And I know that's from the different.
As Netflix, the only way I would accept putting Season 2 onto Netflix if I got all of the other Star Trek library.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, the answer would be no. Man, they really need to put that off on. Well, because they know the show is hated, and they have to put out Season 2 because it's in the contract. So they're just trying to dump it onto Netflix. Like, Netflix wants a show no one likes.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, Netflix, if you're listening to this, don't accept until they throw in the rest of the library.
The
Hold out
entire
for that.
Star Trek everything.
Yeah. Original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all the movies, everything. Hold out for it.
So, Grace Randolph, everybody's favorite dunderhead bad movie reviewer, had some odd comments recently. A recent attempt by YouTube personality Grace Randolph to draw a distinction between film critics and paid influencers is generating backlash online, including from members of her own community. Randolph, who positions herself as a film critic and pop culture commentator, was discussing the critical response to the upcoming Michael Jackson biopic Michael. The film currently holds a notably low critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, adding to ongoing conversations about the divide between professional critics, online audiences, and Hollywood access media. It has a low critic score, but a very high audience score.
That makes sense.
During her commentary, Randolph introduced a third category, paid influencers, as distinct from traditional critics. However, the distinction did not appear to resonate with many of her viewers who pushed back on the comments and live chat, questioning both the framing and her broader point. So here's the problem. Rotten Tomatoes works insofar as people trust the ratings of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
They think that if they just get high score, people go on Rotten Tomatoes and then go, oh, the movie's good. So they manipulate the numbers. And you might go, oh, well, that's conspiracy. No, we know for a fact they manipulate the numbers and the ratings from people.
They admitted it.
They do. They changed how things are scored. They changed who's allowed to access it. But how many times have you gone on Rotten Tomatoes, Jason, and looked up scores for a movie and went, well, let's see what the critics say. And even just the little blurbs. Have you ever clicked on any of the critics, read their full reviews, been interested in what they have to say about other things, interested in more
really.
the general audience critic? Because nobody cares what they have to say. Because critics are irrelevant. They don't have credibility anymore because they know that they get paid with access by these studios to go to premieres, to go to things that and with all of the drama around the fact that critics are no longer independent voices, that they're simply shills for the studios, they've lost a lot of credibility. The fact that Rotten Tomatoes relies on critic scores and no one cares what the critic scores are because no one trusts critics because they have bad opinions that are structured around the fact that they desire access and sometimes even paid, maybe not directly, but through things like access or gift bags or whatever, that critics have become so irrelevant because you used to be able to trust critic opinion basically like, well, I'd like their opinion or what they have to say about a movie. No one trusts that anymore. The best you can find is maybe some guy that you align with on YouTube. But in reality,
Right.
critics, nobody cares about what they have to say. And I think studios are understanding that critics no longer have the influence they used to. So what's happening?
Yeah.
Well, how do you speak to younger people? How do you get your product out to younger people to listen to get interested in? Influencers. That's how you get it.
Influencers, yeah.
You go through the influencers. You go through the people that have a lot of followings on TikTok and Reddit and not Reddit, but Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. You get to them. You offer them money. You get them to show up on red carpets with status and whatnot. And now we're finding the critics frowning because they're like, no, I'm a real critic because I review things, I delve into the content, and they're not really. And this is a bad precedent
Right.
because the influencers are simply just being paid. And the problem is influencers have zero interest to be critical in any way. They're just happy to be there and get free stuff. The glamour of showing up at the red carpet. They're easier to buy than the critics are because no one's reading the critic reviews, but you might watch a little blurb when somebody makes a comment on YouTube from an influencer. And now the critics are sitting here going, oh, well, I don't like the fact that I'm being kind of elbowed out, that no one's interested in my opinion anymore. And it's like, I mean, yeah, nobody does care.
We brought this up the other week on the podcast, where we read an article from a critic about the new Mario movie, and the critic was critical of the new Mario movie, saying that Imagine Studio really um, really missed their opportunity here to I don't know what. But I went down and looked at the comments and found out through the comments that basically the person who was writing the article was a legit film critic. He went to film school. He studied all the the greats in film and all that other stuff. And everybody else that was commenting down below were like, "You missed the point. You have no idea what you're talking about. This movie's just good fun. Blah 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 blah." And Nintendo is laughing all the way to the bank in these people's faces. Now, I can't say that I care for influencers. I think um, they're even more of paid shills for movies, and you can trust their opinions even less than you can trust the critics. Um,
Well, to read a quote from her really quickly, Rotten Tomatoes has kind of weaponized influencers. I've told you before that this is Hollywood's attempt to work around critics. Influencers
Yeah.
are always positive. It's their job to like everything they're paid to like, as if
Yep.
you aren't paid in your own way.
yeah. And so I trust more a regular guy on the street who went and saw the movie and told me what his opinion of it was.
Most people take things like word of mouth, like your friend says it's good, therefore you go see it, sort of thing,
Exactly.
rather than, well, I went on professional critic site and I thoroughly read his multi-page review. It's like no one's sitting. At the very least, at the very most, they're reading like the headline or the top front paragraph
Yeah.
of the article rather than actually reading through the whole thing. Some have pointed out that money is not the only motivation. High-profile influencers are often compensated with access, including early screenings, invitations to press events, advanced screeners. That access, however, can come with implicit expectations. More than that, there can be consequences if those expectations are not met. It's very short-sighted if an influencer says, "This movie sucked," Randolph said. She added to that if they do, then they don't get invited back. This has been true for critics.
Yep. Even more so.
And she
I
goes,
mean-
well, paid influencers will give more positive reviews. Yeah, but I can't find that critics are not just shills as well.
Right. I mean, if you were Roger Ebert or Gene Siskel, maybe. But that was back in the 80s. And so for them, having your movie reviewed by these two guys, that was it didn't really matter if they gave you 2 thumbs down. You got reviewed by Siskel and Ebert, and you weren't gonna block those two guys out from seeing your movie, even if they gave it a thumbs down.
Well, this happened in the gaming industry where we had an incestuous relationship between
Oh yeah.
game reviewers and video game companies. And at its core, these relationships should be contentious more than anything. There should be a distance, because that's what's so funny about things like film and video game is they're reviewing products. So there's a lot of money attached to this. There should be no crossover. Like I should ask questions and be very suspicious when somebody is getting free games to play ahead of time so that their reviews are timely. Because then it's like, well, you're getting paid with access. I mean, how frequently or how willingly are you willing to be critical of these sorts of things? Like, these are issues that have existed on the internet for a long time. Kane and Lynch, where they took money on GameStop, or was it the precursor to IGN, GameSpot?
GameSpot, yeah.
And then they gave it very positive reviews, and there were ads all over their website for Kane and Lynch. Like, these are issues that have been a problem with these companies. So it's like, how do you know for sure what the consensus of the movie is? Well, increasing doubts of authenticity from those with access may explain why audience-driven platforms like Criticless are gaining traction, because nobody trusts critical reviews.
Nope.
The site
We
allows...
know that basically all the critics are doing is they are using their film school knowledge to tell us that the director didn't frame this shot quite right, and we don't care. Or that the author didn't, bring up the latest controversy in the script or whatever.
The site allows general audiences, those without special access, to rate and review films. In this model, concentrated word of mouth may ultimately carry more weight than critics, paid influencers, or Grace Randolph. Me and Ross started to just sit down and chat about movies, but Jason's been a part of what I call the media illiterate reviews that we do.
Yeah.
But the reason why I like doing those is not just, it's like, wow, this is our professional review. No, these are average people having conversations about the film and what we thought about it. And not just film, but shows or whatever. And I apologize that we haven't finished, putting out all of the Fallout stuff, because it's just a bad show. Anyway, but they're really fun because it's a long form sit down conversation about our thoughts on the show, which you can agree or disagree. But we also don't have influence. Well, this podcast is zero influence anyway. But we also don't have influence.
He's like us.
Well, right. Like, there are movies I don't like that are very popular, and word of mouth encourages those sorts of things. And so my voice is more isolated and more niche than most general audiences when it comes to certain movies. That's fine. Those things are fine. And hopefully the conversation is more entertaining than really more trying to be influential. But word of mouth, and in this case, audience-driven critical scores, which is why I always like Metacritic, because it was more of an aggregate.
Right.
Hold more value than any paid critic, influencer, or even Grace Randolph, or even us. And
right.
That's how it should be. Like, look, Super Mario Galaxy, it doesn't have a very good story or existent story, and there's a lot of stupid stuff in it, but if you shut your brain off, there's a lot of fun. Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of nods to the traditional games. So it's like there is fun to be had with the movie, and there's fun. There's ways to enjoy it. Now, I don't think that there's no value in actually critically viewing the movie, because if you sit down and you think about the film, there's a lot of problems with the story. but there is also value in a general audience shutting their brains off and just enjoying the bright lights and explosions. I don't think those both are mutually exclusive. You can critically sit there and think about how bad the story is, but still enjoy it in its own way and another, aspect of it.
Well, see, there's one thing there that I liked that you touched on was that, you can look at a movie critically and examine it and say, you know what, we could have beefed up this story a little bit better. But I think that the problem that one of the problems that we're running into with critics is that every critic seems to think that each movie that they review should be, I don't know, visiting the human condition or telling a story that's Oscar worthy or, something of that nature. When with the Mario Galaxy movie, you know, making a movie that's just a little bit tighter on the story and making it more coherent. That's all we really mean when you and I are saying that there are story problems, where the critics is like, there's story problems because for them it's like they didn't deliver the message. You know what I'm saying here?
Sure. I mean, there are serious criticisms to have about the plot, but
Uh-huh.
oftentimes critics try to view things through some sort of lens, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, especially with modern so-called woke critics, as everything gets viewed through, it's like, well, is there enough representation? Are the women considered strong characters? Or do they pass the
Right.
Bechdel test? Are there LGBTQ characters? Is there,
Is
and
it
then it's like, I'm going to
representative enough?
judge whether or not it fits into this criteria. I mean, there are certain movies. I was having a discussion with Ross earlier this week about Godfather.
Uh-huh.
And general consensus among critics is it's a great movie.
Right.
I mean, I'll talk about Godfather, but it might be easier to even point out Saving Private Ryan. Movie I love, there are problems with the movie. Godfather, I really love the movie, but it doesn't play like a traditional story arc from my perspective, and there are certain elements that people often interpret that might actually not be entirely accurate. But these are movies that have depth. These are the movies where multiple views, you might get multiple things from it. The journey
Right.
of Michael from somebody who was a lot more passive, who wasn't interested in the family business, who gets thrust into it because the death of Sonny and the stupid drama with Fredo and whatnot, and like then he becomes the character. The fact that family was really important, then he kind of loses a lot of his family later on in the story.
Right.
These are interesting things to discuss, like the nuance and the plot and the meaning and how shots are framed. And all of these have value, or I can watch and be like, this is a fun gangster movie.
Right. But on top of that, it's also not made for kids.
No. And there are reasons why certain movies can have different value. I think we should ask for more from children's movies, because there's been an age of Pixar where they've been very good children's movies, but also really good movies. And Super Mario
And I'm
Galaxy
not
is a good children's movie, but it's very stupid.
Yeah.
and,
I mean, like
and
I said,
also in that sense.
Yeah. The thing is like you said, not like I said, like you said, Pixar. That's a high bar to meet,
Which
where
they don't
it needs
fulfill
to be,
anymore anyway.
yeah, where it needs to not only entertain the children, but also entertain the adults too. I can't tell you how many movies once my kids got older that we threw out because they were garbage movies that were just for kids, and there was no adult enjoyment in it whatsoever. And now that my kids are old enough, it's just like they realize it, they outgrew it, and there's nothing left for them in that movie, you know. And
I mean, as a Nintendo fan, there's some fun that I find in
right.
the Galaxy movie. But the Galaxy movie is more about Rosaline and Peach than it is about Mario.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, Mario Brothers, the Rosaline and Peach movie. Oh. Never
Super
mind.
Mario Galaxy, starring Rose and Peach.
Let's see. At the end of the day, Grace Randolph may be correct about her assessment of the problem. Honest reviews can be difficult to find. Yet she may also be as much part of the system she is criticizing as though she is calling out, which is absolutely true. She's like, well, they're not real critics. It's like, you're not a real critic either, Grace. Well, let's be honest.
No, I totally passed the critics test.
Your takes are also just absurdly garbage. Well, Jason, can Ubisoft redeem themselves? Well, I guess the only possible cord that they can pull to save themselves is Black Flag remake. I mean, it's the game.
Seriously,
it's the
guys,
most
love
loved
us again.
Ubisoft game. They're calling it Black Flag Resynced. It looks good, and they don't seem to have cut anything, so that's good. We'll find out if this ends up being successful, but this was announced about a couple days ago.
I did hear something about, or I shouldn't say I heard something. What I should say is I noticed an uptick in Ubisoft in the searches recently, and I was wondering what that was about. So this makes sense. I don't know. Everybody loved Black Flag, which is good. I'm not saying that.
It's the best Assassin's Creed.
But at the same time, it's like, obviously this is a ploy to...
I mean, this is the emergency cord. Remake your most loved game. That's like the only thing that this really is. Hey, nothing successful, remake the game that everybody loves the most. Oh, okay. Yep. We are not a political podcast, but I'm going to do something slightly referencing politics, solely for context purposes. First of all, there's a show that was canceled, well, not canceled, pulled from being released on Apple, called The Savant. The Savant, to explain The Savant, so The Savant is a story that they present as just a mom who follows extremist hate groups on the internet and tracks them down and has apparently resulted in the arrests of people. That's sort of how it presents itself. The truth about this movie, the miniseries, is one, she's not just some mom, the way they present it. She works for the FBI. So this is a story about a lady that works for the FBI who is following and looking into extremist groups. Secondly, we don't know who she is directly because we don't know the name of apparently the actress here has spoken to her over the phone. But we don't know her actual name because they're afraid of being exposed, blah, blah, blah. Thirdly, this isn't based off a book or anything released normally. This is based off an article in a magazine.
Okay.
About some lady that was infiltrating hate groups on the internet. Famously, she claimed that she figured out somebody was going to do some crime or some hate crime or something extreme, because the guy was selling some of his stuff on eBay. And in the show, it implies that they call her the Savant. And she's like, well, I don't know, whatever. There's very little direct evidence that she did really much of the things she claimed she did. And really, in reality, I think the best we know from the article, if it's true, is some of the stuff she did resulted in the arrest of a few people. This apparently requires a series talking about how an average lady is fighting back against hate on the internet or whatever. It was initially pulled from being released on Apple around the time of Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's
Right,
when it
right.
was pulled at
I
first, because they're
remember
like, oh, this doesn't look good, because obviously someone who's willing to go so far as to kill another person is drummed up by fear and paranoia about political people who sit on the other side of the aisle. So this might be seen as encouraging people to demonize and hate others with different opinions as being a part of hate groups, justifying whatever it's going to take to go after somebody simply because you disagree with them. If you're extremely politically minded, please divulge yourself from extremist points of view. Even when listening to this. Killing somebody because you disagree with them is not okay. Well, he had opinions I disagree with. Well, if we do, then let's just all start shooting each other and we'll see who's the last one standing. If this is how we're going to conduct ourselves. Are we going to have to live in a world where we're going to have to interact with people that disagree with? Well, then maybe this isn't the best solution for airing out your grievances. Do you realize in a democracy, democracies exist where you're supposed to have different people with different points of view? Not everybody agrees with the same point of view and to drive out people that disagree with us, because that is not a democracy. Anyway, days around this announcement of the show finally being released on Apple also coincided with a massive story to come out where the Southern Poverty Law Center was apparently funding racist organizations because they weren't big enough. So here's the accusation, and this wasn't passed down or an attack from the current administration. This was passed down from a grand jury, which is a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
But essentially the accusation is they had trouble getting funding from donors, so they helped what they called paying off informants, but in reality the accusation is that they were essentially helping to fund these racist organizations in order to drum up paranoia because there wasn't enough justification, because there wasn't very many hate groups out there. They were so small and insignificant that they didn't matter. So they were essentially filtering money into these organizations to create paranoia, to create more funding, is essentially what the accusation is.
I mean, it's one thing to pay an informant to find out about, if you have issue, okay, let me rephrase this. It's one thing to pay an informant to get information about groups who are, questionable, to say the least. But I've been following this a little bit, and in order to do this, they were setting up shell companies and they were laundering money to do this.
Yes,
so
they were hiding it is the problem.
Yeah.
Now, their excuse from a video they put out was, look, we don't need to get too in the weeds. This is a very political charged subject. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this show is implying that there's a huge amount of hate group issues. And now we've got the most prominent hate group law firm that goes after so-called hate groups. Right. Having to drum up the existence of hate groups to justify their funding.
Right.
Which is what makes the existence of the show somewhat hilarious if you buy the current charges being leveraged against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Did I deal with that as deftly as I possibly could without getting too political? The reason why it needed the backstory is this released about a couple of days before the new release of they were basically making up a lot of the drama with the hate groups and funding it. And you're just like, well, what do you mean making up? And it's like, well, one of the quote unquote informants was receiving large amounts of money and helped organize the Charlottesville thing that resulted in the death of someone. Their informant, with their money, helped organize the Charlottesville thing that resulted in someone's death. So I just find it rich that we're getting a show implying that I'm fighting hate groups when we're now getting indicators that maybe they weren't as large as people thought they were, to the point where even the Southern Poverty Law Center was pushing money towards them. You're like, well, they didn't pay we're talking 3 million plus. That's how much money
There's millions
they
of dollars. This is
Yeah.
not a small amount of money.
Yeah, that's not a small amount of money. So good luck, the Savant. I know a lot of people on the internet who are going to lambast it and make fun of it were disappointed when it got pulled, because they were probably going to make weeks of content criticizing the show and how stupid it is. So there was a lot of cheering across the internet because now they can make fun of Apple's the Savant and how stupid it is. Based upon the information, the show is exaggerating the role this individual had based upon the information we have available. And it's hard to corroborate it because she's keeping her name secret. So there you go. Oh, boy. Real life is so much more funnier than anything you can make up.
We've had two things today that the whole controversy around Pragmata, and then this.
Yep. Look forward to the Savant
Apparently-
on Apple TV coming soon so that everybody can dump on it and make lots of money.
Apparently, in order for us to fight hate, we have to create it first.
Well, my biggest criticism of shows like this is the evidence of this actually occurring are very scant and unreliable.
Right.
And so the show really only serves for, let's say you're a very left-wing person, you're going to watch this and go like, yeah, we are fighting hate. And you're going to want to believe that people are out there doing this, fighting the hate and stuff, when in reality it wasn't really happening, or maybe heavily exaggerated as to what was happening. But the people who are going to love it are the ones that want to believe it's true, which happens with a lot of content where you go and watch something that maybe leans in your political direction, and then you go like, yeah, that really happened and this is really true. And it's like, it might be exaggerated for home content to make it seem more censorious than it really is. But you want to believe it, and then you want to believe fabrications, and then you're going to pass it on to other people. Yeah, look at what we're doing to fight hate, when none of that was really happening.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're definitely exaggerating the importance of this lady and her efforts in order to make this show based on the article about her more dramatic, more entertaining.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get this a lot with war movies, how exaggerated and how ridiculous some of the content is, where it comes across more as like a propaganda piece and a Yay America piece, as opposed to more accurate or realistic to what was happening at the time. But it's made to be more censorious and more exaggerated. But then I'm going to go see the movie that's like pro-America because I like America. And then it's going to make me go, yeah, look at what we did. We were so cool. When in reality, the situation was probably a lot different, probably not as ridiculous. And I mean, reality is so much more interesting. You don't really need to make stuff up is the problem.
Right. I mean, there are some really great stories out there. I like but to talk about the criticism, one of the things that I remember was when U571 came out.
Yeah, none of that.
I remember the British taking issue with it because they basically found one of the Enigma machines in the code books. They just found a submarine that had been abandoned. They just went in and picked it up and left.
Well, there were actually a few occasions where they captured Enigma machines from submarines.
Yeah.
And it really became an amalgamation of like, oh, America went and took it and they won the war with it. Kind of.
But it's like you said, it's an amalgamation. So they could have done like, this is an international force or whatever, but it's like do we really want to do that here in the movie, or do we want to tell an entertaining story here based on lots of accounts that happened during World War II, yada yada yada? I think that that's okay. They never once said that this was true to life. If I remember right, they may have said it was based on um, real accounts or something like that, but I don't think they were like, "Oh, this is the exact true story of, you know, capturing the Enigma code machine or whatever."
That's part of the reason why so much criticism was leveraged against Battlefield 5 is
Mhm.
all of the single player stories were just inaccurate, historically wrong. Like there were no like so there's a part of the campaign story where this girl and her mom fight the Nazis and her mom dies, and then she continues to fight the Nazis to get to the base to continue on the mission of these commandos they encountered who were all killed, to stop the
Mhm.
Germans from developing hard water that would eventually lead to their development of the atomic bomb or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, well, first of all, that none of that happened. There were no women involved. There was not Commando Woman who stopped the atomic
Right, right.
program of the Nazis. And in fact, it was so much more interesting. It was a team of British commandos who landed, who worked with Norwegians, Norwegian
Right.
commandos hidden in the mountains, who came down and had a raid that was so well planned and so well executed that they snuck into the facility, destroyed the hard water, and sunk the ship that they were going to leave with the hard water on, and got out without losing anybody. That's so much
I rem-
cooler a story, but that story doesn't involve a cool boss girl who's taking
right.
everybody out with her cool weapons and being unilaterally saving the world from German atomic weaponry. And that's
Right.
what was so stupid about the story. It's like, none of this happened. None of that happened. You're just making crap up now because you want to create a story where this woman is so much more awesome than ever happened in actual history ever. But they're not interested in facts. They're interested in what kind of serves their narrative and agenda.
Well, the thing is that there were cool stories, as I recall, from World War II about women. There was the female tank driving. I forget exactly. If I remember right, it was a Russian lady. She bought a tank because her husband was killed by the Germans, and she just was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go out and fight Germans in my tank."
There were
And
some women in combat roles, but mostly in Russia that had very active
right,
combat roles. They weren't There was a very notable woman sniper in Russia who was very
yes, that
good,
was
and
the
there
other
was a
one.
notable. I believe I've heard that tank story as well. But by and large, but like you could tell that story about that
Yeah,
lady, but don't imply that all of the women were half of the Russian army and
right.
raiding all of the German. Like none of that happened. There were women pilots on the Russian side because they were running out of competent people.
Because they were running out of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, most of the stories that I remember about women being in combat positions from World War II were Russian women. I don't remember there really being any. There were a lot of French women who were in the French underground and the French resistance during World War II.
Yeah.
And if I
And
remember
those are
right,
stories you could tell.
there were some Norwegian girls that that were on the resistance for Norway when in World War II, and there's plenty of really interesting stories that are true that you could tell. I really don't understand a lot of times where they're like, in order for us to make this story better, we have to embellish it with stuff that didn't happen.
Yeah, but it's because there's an agenda. Because it's not
Right.
interesting to tell a story of a girl sneaking around France, passing messages and helping undermine the Nazis. They have to be storming the beaches with machine gun in hand, blowing away Germans. That's more interesting. because they have to be doing the hyper masculine thing that all the guys are doing, not the realistic what was happening. And their argument would be, well, it's not that big a deal. It's more important to portray women as being awesome so that when people play it, they get the view that women are awesome rather than portraying them accurately or what actually happened historically.
If they did it accurately with historically what happened, the women
It would be a lot less
portrayed as
interesting.
awesome. No, I mean, so obviously the Norwegian one where they went in and they took out the boat and stuff by completely excluding the women from that and being true to actually what happened, that makes a good story. Obviously, you don't get your boss babe moment, but
they do
we
this
don't really care
all the
But-
time.
if you're talking about the story of that Russian sniper woman or the women who were in the French Resistance during World War II, you would have awesome women in your movie just
No.
doing what was actually
You need a girl.
historically accurate.
You need a girl punching mustache man in the face,
Apparently.
like killing 40 Nazis. Like that. That's the only way it becomes cool. Not a legitimate story of actual people doing heroic things. I mean, there was a girl that resisted the Yahtzee party. Oh, they did do a movie about her. It was pretty good. There's a German girl, and she was pretty young and ended up being executed. I apologize, I forget her name. But there are countless stories in history of people doing great things. But the point isn't... The point is I have to portray women being awesome and doing the stuff the men were doing, not tell accurate stories. Yeah. And the fact that they have to make sure it's specifically women's stories, like not to dump on the movie, but they made a movie about... it was the all black woman mail carrier unit on like Netflix. Okay. And their actual story, they carried mail. They didn't do anything. Now, whatever exaggerated nonsense that happens in the movie that they made, they really weren't involved in anything dramatic in any way.
We're basically just delivering the mail like
yeah, well, and it's an important role. Oftentimes, one of the most important parts of the military is support roles. For each, I think in World War II, is like for each one soldier we had in the field, it was like 10 people behind him supporting with logistics and resources and food and munitions and medical care and mail carrying and whatnot. But it's like, so what, we got to turn this into a big story that didn't happen? Like, where's my movie about the Harlem Hellfighters? Where's that movie?
Right.
They were amazing in World War I. Where's that? I want to see that movie. Amazing American unit, all black, come from Harlem, put together and mustered, and they weren't in active combat role. They ended up in crazy combat positions because they ended up having to defend certain positions and became pretty ferocious at the time. And it was like, there's a great story and they're great Americans. I don't want to see that story. I'm just sick of fabricating these historic events just because you have an agenda or you have some political message you want to get across.
But I want to see my movie about the Quartermaster Corps. Dang it!
Yeah. No, that's not as interesting, everybody. Oh well. Did we have one more? Let's see. Yep, no, the Savant. Let's look forward to the Savant on Apple, which will sensationalize what this person did and mostly be inaccurate. Yay! It's been a special podcast. Less people, but we really tried to get into the topics. However, much like all good things, this much come to an end. As always, like, comment, subscribe. What was the if you don't like, comment, subscribe, then you're gay or whatever? There's a lot of gay people out there because people aren't liking, commenting, and subscribing.
If you don't like, share, comment, and subscribe, Rhett will eat puppies.
If you're extremely afraid of what people are going to apply about your sexuality, reaffirm your heterosexuality by liking and commenting on the podcast.
Actually, Silver will be the one eating the puppies.
Goodness. All right, Internet. You've been fun. It's time we get along. Get shifting along. We'll have to see you guys next time. Oh my gosh, where's the outro? Outro!
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.